The Locked On Podcast Network presents the College Sports Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in college sports. From our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. Bringing you the real story. Why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The College Sports Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in college sports. You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks.
We got to hear from Bobby yesterday, and I know I played some of those clips of what he said yesterday, and I'm going to play. Actually, no, I won't play this one again because I don't want to start a whole thing. But the point is, he was asked about and talked about Arkansas and talking about how special it is and how great it is and how he loves it. And, you know, he wants to get it back to where it needs to be in winning. This stuff that I really want to hear because I remember that. I remember well. I was in college at the University of Arkansas when Bobby was busting, man, when he was getting after it. And I remember how much fun it was. And that's why I always bring up to people and saying it's not unheard of. It's not impossible for Arkansas to get back to that point. Even as much as you morons out there like to think. Anybody that says that Arkansas can't do this, Arkansas can't do that, just don't even listen to them because they're idiots. However, I'm not naive enough to look at Petrino and be like, dude, you just wanted to be an offensive coordinator and call plays and coach quarterbacks. That's what you wanted. You even said, I want to be in the classroom with these guys. That's my comfort level. It's my comfort zone. And then when all this goes down, not only are we hearing, like what Brandon Marceau said about Petrino working the phones and wanting to, you know, if things went downhill, that he would want to be the, of course, interim coach, but also that he wanted to be the permanent head coach of Arkansas. And then he said as much in his press conference yesterday. So I sit back and I look at Petrino and I see he's an older guy. You know, I mean, he was a coach here 15 years ago and a lot's changed. He's definitely in an era of college athletics that has changed so dramatically and is ever changing. NIL, transfer portal. You got to coddle. You got to do all those things for players more so than ever. Stroking egos, making sure that they're all happy, dealing with any of these early portal windows and all this nonsense that Petrino has never given me the vibe that he wants to deal with. Yet, he wants to be the head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks moving forward. Now, I am appreciative of that. But I also would have totally understood if he was like, man, I'll be the interim, but I'm going to be looking for something else. I just want to be an offense coordinator, see if anybody else is out there, and I'll just move on to another job, make $1 million or so per year, and just coach offense and stick with that. I would have no problem with him doing that. I would have understood it. But yet he wants the head coaching job. But why? Why? No, you can sit there and say the coach's answer and all those things. It's pretty smart. But I'm going to look at it from a different perspective. Folks, Bobby Petrino's not a dumb person. He knows that in order to win at Arkansas, it requires certain things. He knows that he had an AD sitting right next to him. That said, as the clip we just played a bit ago and talked about, Sam Pittman was not set up for financial success here at Arkansas. So Bobby you would think, it's like, well, if last head coach was not set up financially for success here at Arkansas, why would I be? Why am I going to be? What would change here? He has to think that, right? Of course he is. Of course he does. He's a smart guy. And on top of all of that, he's a guy that is very direct, very blunt, and also very intense when it comes to his approach to the games and everything. So my only theory behind it all of why Bobby Petrino would actually want to be the permanent head coach moving forward is because somebody or something has basically given him those assurances that he's going to be the guy. But also, too, if he is the guy, they'll provide him the money and provide him all the support that he needs. But also, too, There's got to be a desire there. There's got to be something that he sees. He sees something at Arkansas. I don't think this is a nostalgia thing. I don't think it's just, oh, gee, I just love to run out of the A one more time. I don't see it as that. I just don't believe, maybe I'm giving him too much credit, but I do not believe that Bobby Petrino, who could do a lot of different things, would want to take on this gig if he himself wasn't set up for success. If he himself didn't look at Arkansas, didn't look at the SEC, didn't look at the current landscape and say, oh yeah, I can make this work. I could totally do that. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he ends up being the head coach, maybe he doesn't. But it goes back to this one thing that I find very important, folks, and stay with me on it. You, at a place like Arkansas, have to have a coach with a massive ego, such a monstrous ego, that believes that he is so good as a coach, he can win a championship at Arkansas. That's how good of a coach he is. That's how in premier of a coach he is. That, oh, I can go to Arkansas and win a championship there. I could win at LSU. I could win at Georgia. I could win at Arkansas. Because I am that good. That's what you need. And I think for too long, you have tried to go the route of hiring football coaches that were, quote, player coaches, relationship coaches, coaches that got along with the players, got along with the administration, got along with everybody, all of this stuff. Yes, there's something to be said. That's all swell and nice. But at some point in time, you got to have somebody that can take it to that next level and be that jerk, that egomaniac, that control freak, that person that makes everyone feel uncomfortable. That is what you need at Arkansas. And that is what Bobby Petrino has. And that is what makes him successful. And that is exactly what Arkansas needs to be successful. So why not? I'm not saying Bobby Petrino needs to be the permanent head coach moving forward. I certainly want to see what he's made of here these next 9 weeks with 7 games left. Should be fascinating. All right, so this is absurd, but it cracks me up and it's so funny. Everybody's going to have their own coaching search. Everyone's going to have their own names. Folks, I have gotten hit up nonstop, which I love, and I appreciate all of you. But nonstop about who do you want? Who do you want? Who do you want to be the coach? Who are you hearing? Who do you want? It's part of it. It's part of the fun. It's part of the fun. But when people ask me, I'm like, there's a lot of people I would be okay with, but there's not one person that I'm looking at being like, oh, got to get this guy and it'll just be the game changer. It'll be a guaranteed working thing. Except for maybe one. The John Gruden thing. John Gruden angle cracks me up because it's so absurd. But I love it so much because it brings so much attention. Recruiting would be great. The energy would be great. He would take over. He's been successful everywhere he's been. He was won a Super Bowl. He wants to get into the SEC. And the last thing I want to see have happen again, folks, is seeing a coach that I would love to have and that you would love to have and that would have success and him go to another SEC school instead of yours. I feel that way about John Gruden. Brett Favre does too. Brett Favre put out this tweet and Facebook post, unsolicited, just out of the blue. He says, quote, I've always said John Gruden is one of the sharpest minds in football. His energy, passion, and love for the game are a perfect fit for the SEC. Wouldn't be surprised to see him land somewhere like Arkansas. I could see Gruden being a spark for that program. I mean, Gruden coached at the Packers and knows Brett Favre well. Could you imagine? There's got to be something to this, right? Just something. Brett Favre has no skin in the game. What does he care about Arkansas? He doesn't care. Surely he wouldn't say this unless he was politicking, unless he was hearing things or talking to John Gruden himself, or like, what was the point of this? I don't believe in these coincidences. I don't believe that Brett Favre at 4 p.m. yesterday afternoon just, got out of his Ford pickup truck or whatever he's in and just thought, I'm going to fire off a tweet about John Gruden and how Arkansas I feel like would be a good fit for him. There's got to be something to that. Now, don't get crazy and start thinking that suddenly that means John Gruden's for sure coming. Just saying, I would love it. And I think it'd be great for Arkansas if that happened. And I think if you have an opportunity, if you have a chance at it, if there is a window, if there is a way that you could realistically make John Gruden the next head coach of Arkansas, you do it, and do it now. Do whatever it takes. I'd become like the 8th most well-known John in the state of Arkansas, though. That's okay. John Gruden, John Calipari, John Daly. Listen, I'll be on. I'll gladly relinquish that if it means all those coaches are going to be on campus and how fun it would be. But
most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
Some stunning breaking news. Tino Sunseri's out as UCLA offensive coordinator.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins.
Here's the breaking news. According to Ben Bolch of the LA Times, UCLA's Tino Sunseri, the offensive coordinator, and the Bruins have officially parted ways. The expectation is that Jerry Neuheisel will be calling plays, and I think what Ben Bolch put out there from the LA Times was that Noel Mazzoni is going to come back, Noel Mazzoni, as some sort of analyst to maybe help with this whole situation. So that means you have two completely different guys who are going to be influencing the defense and offense. You got Kevin Coyle from UCLA defensive side of things, kind of influencing the play calling there. You've got Mazzoni, who can come in, and I wonder how much he's going to be impacting with Jerry Neuheisel. But the stunning news, and I might have more on this later, is that Sunseri's out. This is a guy that's had very minimal time to prove himself. And from what I'm hearing, I'm not sure if all the players are all in on what's going on with the UCLA changes. What's this going on with the staff? You've got the likes of Malloy, the defensive coordinator, who was taken out a couple weeks ago, and they just switched things. And he was a very popular figure, one of the longest standing figures in this UCLA program in this recent era. And then you've got Tino, who I believe is well liked, coming in, who is supposed to be an offensive wonderkind coming from Indiana, and Indiana's done really well so far this season. And instead, he's come to UCLA. The offensive line's been an issue. Nico Iamaleava has had some problems too, but not like it's just stunning that, yes, I just did part of the episode earlier today talking about how UCLA struggled early in the games. And you talk about those scripted plays, those plays in the first 8 to 10 where UCLA's not getting anything. They're not getting points. They've trailed at the end of every first quarter. The first half, the Bruins have looked lifeless, and very rarely have we seen adjustments. That was a rant I just went on in the second segment of the most recent podcast about where's UCLA getting their offensive production from. And there's maybe more to digest here, but the stunning news is that Tino is out, according to the LA Times. I believe that's who got it first. So Tino comes out, and I wonder what Jerry Neuheisel means. This is the Jerry time. Everybody likes Jerry. We all love Jerry. Obviously, the big touchdown pass he threw against Texas in literally Jerry's world. Jerry Neuheisel, of course. And he comes in, beloved member. He's been around for multiple staffs, and now he gets a chance to call plays. I wonder, as a guy who is the tight ends coach, is this going to make the offense look different? How much that Noel Mazzoni is going to come in and make impact? I'm scrambling. I'm like, wow, this is some stunning news. But the numbers are there that if you're going to just completely clear house, I wonder what. But the thing is, for Sunseri, he never got a chance more than 4 games to prove himself, in a sense, right? You think about it, he comes in, all of a sudden he's working with a completely new quarterback that he didn't work with in spring. All those guys he built relationships with, the guy he flipped at the last moment on signing day to make sure UCLA had a quarterback when Madden Nico's younger brother just spurned UCLA and went elsewhere to Arkansas. Like, what relationships could he have built to set him up for success with an offensive line that doomed Eric Bieniemy and has doomed Tino? Like, that's just kind of crazy. And I believe there's maybe a better future out there for Tino. If you listened to the last episode I did the other day ago with Cam Stewart of Locked On Baylor, we were talking Dave Aranda. And Dave went on there, and Cam went on there and talked about Dave saying maybe that was Baylor as his Cleveland Browns. For Tino as a coordinator, maybe UCLA is his Cleveland Browns in comparison to Bill Belichick at the NFL level, or this is his stinker. He can maybe go back to Indiana. I'm not sure. But yes, the offense clearly had some warts. And you have Nico. But what's going to clearly change things? I'm excited to see Jerry. I wonder what the Mazzoni thing's going to look like, if they're going to go up-tempo and pick things up, because offensively, UCLA needs to mask the offensive line deficiencies. It's clearly a problem. They're trying to do things defensively where they don't get bowled over. So Akaika Malloy is gone. I believe Tino is very popular, but the X's and O's and the numbers don't back it up in terms of what's he going to look like in the future. And doing it now is very interesting. Like, why didn't they just clear house either altogether or let these guys coach out for the rest of the year to coach for their jobs? It's very interesting seeing how this is all coming together and how it's playing out in real time, literally in real time. There's more to talk about. There's more to think, but Tino's gone. Clearly the script wasn't working. The adjustments weren't working. The O-line wasn't working. Working with Nico, that relationship didn't cut out. As much as I believe there's a future for Tino as of offensive coordinator potential, he should get another shot. I don't think this should be that red flag, the ugly mark on his record. It's going to sting for a little bit, and hopefully he gets another chance. For Jerry, now if Jerry comes on and somehow flips things around, that'll be super exciting. But I wonder what UCLA is going to look like heading into Penn State. They've done every little change they could possibly go. And I'm hearing things where it's like, wait a minute, is Skipper the guy? It's very interesting how it's all playing out. It's stunning, and I don't know what to think about with this UCLA team. So we'll talk about it more in the next episode, but that is the breaking news from the LA Times that Cincinnati and UCLA have mutually parted ways.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I want to bet in a given moment. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Oregon flies across the country, comes into the whiteout game, and stuns Penn State in double overtime.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
A reality check as Penn State loses another big game under James Franklin. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. All right, Brian, let's talk about your takeaways, because I've shared tons of them on the football field, live after the game at 1 a.m., and talked about a lot of the flaws within the offense. But I guess you kind of have a bigger picture look at it, just because James Franklin is now 4-21 against top 10 opponents. The deck was stacked in favor of the Nittany Lions. Oregon's a hell of a football team. That is a national title contending team this season. They are either number 1 or number 2 with Ohio State. But what is your assessment now of Penn State after doing what they've done for the past decade?
Basically, they are who they are under James Franklin. I mean, it's nothing that you haven't covered. Do I think you're going to win a national title with him as your head coach? Probably not. But here's the sidebar. At some point, your quarterback just has to be accurate consistently. Like he threw that bomb on that first touchdown. That's as good a pass as you'll ever see at any level. But then they'll throw a 10-yard hitch route and he'll two-hop it. Yeah. Like he's just not clutch on a consistent, like he's frustrating. The bomb, like I talked about, that was as clutch as it gets.
I know. That's a pro throw.
Hell, that's an all-pro throw. Like the coverage wasn't perfect, but he put it where his guy could make a play and the DB had no chance.
Yeah.
That's why somebody will probably still draft Aller. By the way,
We
I
can
don't see
fix
them-
him. We can fix
Well,
him.
yeah.
That's the idea.
It's like the dumb girlfriend that thinks that they can fix the boyfriend who's an idiot. That's drafting Drew Aller. I don't think he's a pro quarterback. He's not consistent, but he's got the arm, he's got the size, he's got the guts, he runs. He's just not very consistent. How much of that is James Franklin's fault? 1%? At some point, you just got to trust the technique you've been taught for God knows how many years to throw the ball the same way every time. And he doesn't. So Penn State's got every resource known to man for football. There is no shortage of cash for Penn State football. So I just don't see why you would trust him. Like, I've listened to 2 podcasts that went over the game, and it was like I was looking in a mirror. They said, Drew Aller is just not the guy. I was trying to see if anybody had a different view, because that was my take as well, and I think it too. I think he will get you to 9-3, 10-2 every year, but you're not going to win anything with him as your main guy.
And that's the idea, right? This is the conversation that we have over and over and over again. We said we framed it as that, Brian, they can finally buck the trend. They can finally rewrite the narrative and say we are a tier 1 team. Which means a true national title contender. You should favor us in more of these games. No, they're still tier 2. Even when the deck is stacked against them, and it's stacked in favor of them, I should say. That's what's so frustrating. And hindsight's, they didn't play anybody in this and that. Maybe so, but I imagine that Oregon would have liked to have had a bye week. They would have liked 2 weeks to prepare. They would have liked that game in Autzen Stadium. They would have liked Penn State to fly across the country, had a clean bill of health for the most part. And against all those odds, Oregon still went into the whiteout and won that game fairly decisively until now. I'll give Penn State credit where credit's due. They came back, they fought, and they forced double OT. But for 3.5 quarters, it was all Oregon.
Yeah, watching the game, and then I just went back through the highlights earlier today. 2 things that I noticed. Is it me, or does Singleton not look himself? Like,
nobody does. Drew Aller, Singleton, I guess Drew Aller somewhat looks mostly like himself, depending on who you ask, but Singleton doesn't. The offensive line doesn't. Guys like Zane Durant. We've talked about Zane Durant ad nauseum, how this guy can be an All-America caliber player, and now apparently he's overrated.
I wonder how many, I say this all the time on Locked On Seminoles, and I'll say it here too. There's no such thing as an accurate injury report at the college level. Ever.
Oh, that's fair. And James Franklin would never tip his hand.
Yeah, it's just
never.
It is what it is. But like, especially quarterbacks, and I know that pisses bettors off. You're never getting one at the college level. Not even remote. Forget who it was. Somebody, the Utah coach. Just as an example, a couple weeks ago, his quarterback missed multiple days of practice, and he didn't put him on the injury report. They got fined, and he doesn't care.
No.
So that just puts it in perspective. Does Singleton look healthy to me? Absolutely not. I remember him running away from Notre Dame's defense last year. Like, he wasn't running. Like, it's not the same. He just doesn't look the same to me. And Oregon's fast and all that stuff. Yep. He doesn't look the same to me. The O-line, though, like, that's harder to grade. But that's mostly the same. What do they got, Zach? 4 guys back from last year?
If you want to be technically correct, 5. All 5 of them were starters from a season ago at some point in the season.
They're still good.
But
they weren't as
maybe
effective.
They're not that great.
I don't know. Oregon's big up front, and I knew they would cause them some problems, but they got more penetration with big guys than I thought they would get. I was a little surprised by that. Penn State underwhelmed me up front, and everybody has an off game, but like, just, they run outside zone very, very well. It was okay. I don't know. Nothing about them made me think that was even a top 10 team offensively. Like, they were just very pedestrian, and they got all the same guys back. It's very odd. I don't understand what it is. I really don't.
Now let's kind of wrap up with this, because the concern is that Penn State may miss the college football playoff. And that's it is a doomsday scenario, not only because, not reaching the national title is one thing, but it is definitely on the table now that Penn State could go 9-3. You bring back everybody, you go and get Amari Campbell and Trevor Pena out of the transfer portal, you reinvent the wide receiver room, you push guys out, you bring new players in. all to go 9-3 and miss the postseason. Clemson, that's kind of the Clemson scenario, and Clemson's completely out of it. But Penn State fans have now dealt with heartbreak in 2 separate instances, with Notre Dame, obviously, in the semifinal, and then Oregon here in this whiteout game, both at the decision-making of Drew Aller. So for you, I'm concerned that Penn State loses to Ohio State, and then Indiana continues to roll along. Can Penn State beat Indiana and Ohio State? Absolutely, but you can also go 9-3 just as likely in that same breath.
Is there anybody else besides Indiana that they play on the road as a good team, or they?
As a competent, capable team, I will give Iowa its due credit. Nebraska also comes to Happy Valley, and I think Dylan Raiola and that offense are only going to continue to improve and get better, so I will never discount those 2 teams, but I still think Penn State will be favored and should win those games decisively. My concern level is a lot different for Indiana, so 9-3 is certainly on the table here.
Indiana, they've got a very good coaching staff, and they've got a top 10 pick at quarterback. Like, if you gave Penn State Fernando Mendoza, I think they could win the national title. He's the accurate, on-time, every play guy. They're not as talented as Penn State, but they got 2 receivers that'll get drafted. I still don't know why Iowa went cover 0 blitz at the end of that game. That's one of the worst defensive play calls Phil Parker's ever made. But whatever, they could lose, but it's in Happy Valley, and they're used to one of those games. At some point, you got to win one of those games, right? Like, it just.
I suppose, but history says otherwise.
They're winning 16% of them under Franklin, literally. So that's just such a low number. I don't know. I don't think that Penn State will struggle with Indiana's O-line as much as they struggle with Oregon's. It's massive. They're some big dudes. And that freshman running back, holy cow, for Oregon, that guy's a dude.
Yeah.
If Penn State goes 9-3, I think they got a better chance to make the playoff than some other teams, because their losses are going to be to top 10, top 12.
Three top 10 teams, yeah.
So, that'll be a debate. Notre Dame will be in that debate again. They don't play anybody the rest of the year. They'll kill everybody who gets in, who doesn't. All that stuff we can talk about later. They got to beat one of Ohio State or Indiana, though. They're not being like 10-2. Penn State's in because their schedule is more difficult than some others, in my opinion. And they would probably most likely host. They wouldn't get a top 4 seed, but they would probably host. So that would be interesting as well.